I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome to The Truth About Addiction. Ronnie Short here. Today we've got a very special guest, Mick Tout. He's going to talk to us about what it's like being a parent of an addict. We're going to come from a different angle today. So, Mick, welcome, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, mate. So tell us a little bit about the Mick Tout story, please, brother.
Oh, it's nothing exciting, my story, mate. Just a normal knockabout bloke. Not with your past, obviously, Ronnie, but just a knockabout bloke who loved me mates when growing up and, yeah, had kids. My first kid at 25, Chris, and then had a few more. I've got 6 kids at the moment. So, yeah, and then played a bit of footy when I was young and sort of didn't go off the rails. I just got a bit lazy and sort of dropped off away from my footy and yeah, that's pretty much it, mate. Just had kids and now I've got a 17 addicted son who has been going pretty ordinary for 3.5 years until we got hold of you, Ronnie, and completely changed him.
Yeah, no, mate. So Jack's your 17-year-old boy. He's is in the middle of the family, isn't he?
Yeah, he'd be in the middle. So there's 3 older than him, and then there's 2 younger than him in the family. So he's sort of right in the middle. And he was always a bit different,
yeah, right.
Of a kooky kid, but he was a beautiful soul, and he always even through his addiction, he's a beautiful kid. When we saw the snippets of him clean, but then we saw the addiction take hold of him, and constant police coming to the house, the seizures, just the ambulance calling to take him to hospital, and it was pretty horrific, mate. And it sort of really took a toll on the family, and probably more so myself and his mum, because we had to live through it with him and help him through it. But yeah, but look, mate, as I said, he changed once he came home. He had COVID, so we wouldn't see him for weeks at times, sometimes, not knowing where he was. And it was pretty horrific. Just every night we either get in the call to go and pick him up, he'd be off his head and trying to keep him safe. But it was really hard to deal with at the time. And then the last time he came home, I think he's 42 days today, Ronnie, I think.
Yep.
He got COVID, so he sort of had to bunk down for a week, and then he even admits then, he probably wasn't ready to. He wanted to, but he didn't know if he'd actually clean himself up. But it was just whatever it is that looks after us, mate. They sent me your way, and yeah, since then he's been unbelievable. Back to the old Jack.
No, he's a good kid, mate. This disease is a pretty horrible disease. It doesn't care who you are or where you come from or what your family status is or your financial status. And, I think a lot of people think that addiction's about lower class families, and street kids and shit like that. It's got nothing to do with that,
No, I agree, Ronnie. And I was probably guilty of that too. You'd see these young kids out, you could tell they were junkies or whatever they were. And I was probably one of the first, and my wife, just had that stigma with it. And you don't know what's going on in people's minds. And we didn't really know what was going on in Jack's mind until it was too late. Even though we talked to him, he wouldn't give us much. And then he found something to numb that. But there is a big stigma with it that, it's just a junkie rat, roaming the streets, getting up to trouble. But yeah, I was guilty of that, mate. But then going through it, I've learned a hell of a lot over the last 3.5 years. And yeah, there was, I've gone big on footy club, played footy all my life. And, I do think that the community just looks at him like, he's a troublesome kid, whereas they don't know what's going on in their head. They don't know what's going on in family lives. So I definitely changed my view. If I see a kid now, I just think, poor bugger, he's got something going on in his life. He's sick in some way. Now, you want to help those kids, but as you know, Ronnie, you can't help them until they want to help themselves.
Yep. 100%.
there is definitely a stigma there, mate.
You know, the thing that blows me away, and as you know, Mick, I've got a daughter who's in recovery as well. You know, how you can have all these children and then there's one that's an addict.
Yeah,
You know, like, where's the rhyme or reason in that? You know, I mean, like people go, oh, it's their upbringing, it's their social standing, it's their, you know, economics, you know, system that they grew up in, and it was the way the family acted. Well, why haven't all the other children become addicts?
Well, I know the older three don't go near the drugs. I know they love a beer with their mates. They play footy, love a beer, but no, you never know the honest truth with your kids, do you? They won't tell you everything most of the time. But I mean, Chris and Tommy, they're in their, you know, one's 20, one's 25, and and Ali, she's they don't go near the drugs as far as I know. Well, they're not addicts, so
yeah, they're not addicts. You can tell, mate. It doesn't matter what they tell you; their actions tell you what they are.
Yeah. So, but I don't know how it's happened.
Can't hold down a job. They can't hold down a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange how it's, like, and Jack was a bit of a nerd at school too, so I didn't think it'd probably be him, but it's what's happened, and you just deal with it.
Yeah, my daughter, she's a twin.
Yeah.
And at school, she was a straight A student.
Yeah.
She used to get bored. She'd say, this is boring. School's so easy.
Yeah.
Her twin sister studied her ass off and battled to make, you know, to pass. The other one was a straight A student. She'd cram for the last 4 days before the end of the term.
Yeah.
Pass with flying colours.
Yeah.
And she'd be on the drugs all week before school.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's insane. I've been around this recovery stuff for 41 years.
Yeah.
And I've realised that it doesn't matter. It only matters about they have got this affliction or this disease. You know, and I incorporate disease as being uneasy with themselves.
Yeah.
And they look outside of themselves to try to make themselves feel whole.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I know as a parent, it was horrifying not knowing if your child was going to come home.
Yeah.
Whether your child was going to be arrested, whether it's going to be dead. You know, and I had a little girl, you know, pretty little girl, and it was like, oh, man, they're horrifying.
Yeah, that's the real hard part, Ronnie, just the constant every day of not knowing if he's going to come home or your kid's going to come home or they're going to have another. And I think Jack had, you know, 4 or 5 seizures from the drugs, and, you know, he was one seizure away from, you know, dying. He'd been told that a couple of times, but he got himself that sort of low. He didn't care. He didn't care if that was the outcome. He just, you know, he was hating life. He couldn't see a future. But you're right. It's just that every day, the hopeless feeling, and, you know, all your friends that know what's going on, is there anything we can do? But there's nothing they can do because they haven't been through it. And I know there's parents out there now that are going through it, and you don't know where to turn. You don't know what to do. You sort of feel let down by the system. And, you know, I've got another mate, Darren Harlan. He helped me through early days, and as he said, he goes, well, unless you've been through it, and you've said it too, Ronnie, unless you go through it, it's very hard to help people because they don't know what they're dealing with. And it's, as a parent, like, we couldn't tell him what to do because I've never been a drug addict. I've never used drugs. Neither has his mum. So it was very hard to, where do you turn to? And some of the, you know, where we're getting him sent to all these different people, it just didn't work, and he didn't click. And you could tell a few of them, not all of them, were just there for to better their careers. And it was pretty ordinary, mate, to be honest. But that was the real hard part. We didn't know where to turn. We pretty much just had each other to talk to about it, but we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't, you know, we just bit of guidance from, like, you know, mate Darren and yourself that have been through it to sort of say, this is what's going to happen. This, you know, this is how you got to sort of handle it. And one thing we never did, we never gave up on him as much as I wanted to, like, just get him away from the family, just piss off, leave us alone. You know, you come home, if you ever get clean, then we'll deal with you. But you just can't. It's very hard to turn your back on your kids, as you know, even though you want to, but it's very hard to do that. And that was probably the biggest thing. We just didn't give up. And just, you know, we knew it could have gone for another 10, 20 years, who knows, but, and it probably still can. Like, there's a fair chance because of his age that he may relapse, but he knows he's got the support.
Just for the day.
Yeah. So
Yeah, just for the day, Mick, because as I say to Jack, there's no guarantees for anybody.
No.
We all do it on a day at a time, and for his age, I'm astounded.
Yeah.
With how much information he's been able to retain.
Yeah.
And how much he's been able to apply. I'm actually very proud of him for the amount of effort he's put in. So he'd been to rehab before, hadn't he?
Yeah. So he was 16 at the time, and we were trying to find him somewhere, and there's just no support for. Like, we just wanted to lock him up and just get him clean, and we didn't know which way to go, and there was no facilities for kids under 18. You had to be 18 to get into a rehab facility, and we were lucky enough because, seriously, I don't think he would have got through the next week if we didn't get him in. And the night before we went into rehab, he was completely off his head and fell out of the car, cut all his face open, and it was just that. It was that close, and we felt that. So we're pretty lucky we had a contact that got him in for 28 days, but he didn't want to do it. It was like, you forced me to come here. But he looks back now and he says, I understand why you did it. Much as he hated it, he didn't want to be there, but he did take a couple of things out of it. And as I've said to him, mate, you can go to all these different people and get all this guidance. I said, and he's played footy. He was a really good little footballer. I said, you've had different coaches, and I was told this, with all my coaches, just take a little bit out of each coach. You might take one thing out of each coach you get. Which he did take a couple of things, but he got out and went straight back to it, and he couldn't wait to get out and get back on the pipe or whatever he was doing. So in some ways it worked, but it wasn't a great success for him because I don't think he was ready.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times it's about the right timing.
Yeah.
You've got to own it before you can change it, and I know myself, at his age, I couldn't be told anything.
No. Especially once he got a bit of a taste of that freedom. He just thought, this is what I want to do. He didn't want to be around his family. He felt like he didn't fit in because he was a bit of a misfit. But, now he realises he can now see, he's with his family every day. He's been home every night since he last came back. And even if he goes somewhere, which we want him to go places, but as you know, as a parent, mate, you just, as you say, that cassette's still playing in the back of the head. You drop him somewhere and you think, oh, here we go. Is he going to slip back? But he's been fantastic. And look, if he had have, I'm sure he would have told you before he'd tell me.
Oh, 100%, 100%, I'll tell you one thing about him. He's not a liar.
Yeah.
Not today. He would have been lying when he was using it. He's not a liar today.
No.
Yeah, he's really humble. When he makes a mistake with me, he sends me a text. Oh, mate, I didn't do this for you. I didn't do that. And he tells you straight away.
Yeah.
And I don't usually have a go at him until then we face to face. I go, mate,
Yeah.
Get your act together, motherfucker. Get your act together, motherfucker. This ain't a game. I said to him this morning, you do what you're told or die, motherfucker. This is not a game. This is life and death. And you know what? I really think he knows it. And I talk about death with him, not as the physical death. I'm talking about the spiritual death.
Yep.
When you die inside, and that's when we're using. We feel like we're empty inside. We feel like a shell.
Yeah.
And we use this chemical to try to change how we feel.
Yeah.
And he hates it. He knows it doesn't work anymore, which is a really, really good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a different kid, mate. As I said, I don't say too much. I just leave him in your care pretty much now because there's nothing we can really say or do. He just knows we're always there for him, and he starts talking, and we'll sit down the back of our property sometimes and be there for 2 hours just talking, which he would never have done, especially through when he was using. He was, he'd say what he had to say and then piss off. I've got to get out of here, get back on. But now it's completely different. But it's such a horrible, as you know, Ronnie, when it's your own kid, you feel powerless. You don't know where to turn to, and I mean, probably better than anyone what to do. But when it's your own kid, it's very hard to, go through.
They don't listen to us, mate.
No, they don't. For some reason, they don't listen to
We're their dads. They're not going to listen to us.
No, exactly.
What would you know, you silly old bastard, you know?
Exactly.
I remember my daughter saying to me once, you know, like, you don't understand. And I started laughing. I said, I wrote the book that you're trying to read to me.
Yeah.
You know, like, stop it. But the nice part was I told my kids, you know, what would happen.
Yeah.
And as they start to progress through her addiction, all that stuff started to happen. And then she was like, oh, fuck, this is what he said was going to happen.
Yeah.
And when she got clean, she said to me, as my life was turning to shit and was unfolding, I was thinking, that arsehole told me all this was going to happen. And it's happening like he said.
Yeah.
So, you know, and so she knew, you know, that she could get out of it because I'd got out of the rotten grips of the disease.
Yeah.
But something that I want to talk about, Mick, is the thing that I'm very strict, as you know, like, and I say to parents, you've got to kick them out. And it's so easy to say,
Yeah.
you know, but to actually do it, it's like a whole different ball game, you know. And I'm so proud that you know, the way that you've stuck with him, mate. I'm really, you know, I think it's an incredible testimony to yourself and your character and your tenacity of sticking with him, because I know how hard it is. I've so many parents just going like, fuck them, I don't want them here no more. They can piss off. I don't care if they die, you know, because they get so frustrated for being powerless, you know. But you've been with him the whole time. You've stuck with him the whole time. He rings you up. You go, I'm the same. You know, I'm the same. I'm tenacious, and you know, I don't know if that's because of we played sports.
Yeah, there was times I'd given up and just said, "Fuck him, that's it. I'm not dealing with this anymore. You know, I've got younger kids. I don't want him around. I don't want him here." Not that I gave up on him, but I just wanted to let it go and move on with life until he was ready. But it was probably his mum that kept me when I was sort of at that point. Like, it was his mum saying, you can't give up, you can't give up. So she was probably the one that really kept me going. As much as I wanted to keep going, it was just so fucking hard.
Yeah.
Then when you're trying to run business, you can't work properly because your mind's on it 24/7. But yeah, she was probably more tenacious than me. Like, I'm not giving up. I don't give a fuck. You can do what you want, but you can't give up on him. I'm not giving up. And it sort of pulled me back a bit. So, but I do believe if we hadn't have stuck by him and kept going, he probably would be dead.
Yeah. There's an old football coach called Jack Gibson, famous NRL coach.
Yep.
His kid is back in the early 80s. His kid was suffering really badly, you know, and he also had some mental health issues, and they had him on heavy medications. And I remember he came into the area that I was living in, which was Cronulla at the stage, and different blokes that say to him, oh, mate, you need to get off your medication. You need to do this. And they'd give him all this information. He ended by killing himself, you know. And I can just imagine, you know, because Jack was, you know, so successful and so good with men, and such a great coach and such a good human being.
Yeah.
And, you know, his own kid, he watched his own kid die. You know, and I always had that feeling in my heart for Jack. I thought, here's a guy that could get blokes to do anything, from get blokes to run into, you know, 90 kilos blokes run into 140 kilo blokes full speed.
Yeah.
Because Jack told him to and wanted to play for him. But his own boy, you know, he just couldn't help, you know. Mate, I got a list a mile long of people that don't get clean.
Yeah.
But I've also got a list a mile long now of people who do get clean and people that do stay clean and people that have great successful lives. You know, the whole motivation behind these podcasts is to let people know that just because you're a drug addict doesn't mean it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Just because you're a drug addict doesn't mean that you can't change and you can't get clean. And also, we weren't born with horns. You know, because a lot of society looks down on drug addiction and goes, "Oh, they're the scum of the earth." I cringe when I hear that.
Yeah.
No, they're human beings. They're human beings first. They're male and female second, and they're addicts third.
Yeah.
And we're only looking at the addict side of it.
Yeah.
And I believe it's, you know, a mental health issue. Today,
100%.
when you learn to do drug and alcohol work, you do a Cert 4 in drug and alcohol, and you do a Cert 4 in mental health. So why are they making you learn about mental health if you're doing drug addiction? You know, when I first started working in drug rehabs, you didn't do Cert 4. There's none of that stuff, you know, in 1981. You just went there and you tried to help people.
Yeah.
You just mate, you just went there because you wanted to help people. You never did this for the money. This was never something you'd done for the money. It was always something you'd done because you wanted to help people. And you know my story. I went back to prison, 16 years off all drugs. And I stayed clean for 8 years in prison. How? I helped other people.
Yeah.
And Jack talks about that with me. He wants to help other kids. And
yeah, he does.
I think he'd be really.
Sorry, mate. Kick in.
No, I think he'd be really good at Jack. I think he's got a great message, and I'm going to encourage him to go down that line later on. Today we talked about he wants to go back to his music, and I said, yeah, you can do your music 3 days a week. I said, the other two, because he goes, the other 2 days. And I said, well, why don't you do a business management course the other 2 days so you can manage yourself?
Yeah.
So you can control your own destiny.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, okay, I could do that. I said, you can do 3 days of your music and 2 days of management. That way you can manage yourself and be in control of your own destiny instead of being ripped off by some manager.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, oh, that makes sense. And I said, well, mate, we never make money working for somebody else, brother.
Mm.
He
definitely wants.
But at the same time,
I know he wants to work with kids that sort of at that age, but he's as you know, Ronnie, he's not real good even with his NA meetings. He just likes to listen. He suffers a bit meeting people, and I said to him, why don't you talk at schools and footy clubs? And he goes, I don't like that big group stuff. He wants to do one-on-one stuff with kids, 14, going down the wrong track before they get to his stage where he was on everything what he was on, which you know more about than I do. He's just opening up a bit to me now. In the end, I just, mate, I don't want to hear it.
He can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's irrelevant of what he was on. It's what he's not on today that matters.
Yeah. So that's...
I always say, because you talked about last week, the weekend that just passed, now is, his little sister's birthday and he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And I sort of give him a kick in the backside. Then I said, that's finished. What are we going to do today?
Yeah.
He was like, what? I said, well, what are we going to do today? I said, I don't speak for you another 2 days. I said, I want to know what you're doing for the next 48 hours.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
And he's a smart ass. So I ran through some stuff with him today, and then he said, I'll just copy what you wrote. What I told him, I said, I'll kick your ass. Yeah. He goes, I'll just copy what you told me. I said, and then I'm going to kick you up the butt. It's a little cheeky bastard, yeah. I love him. I love his sense of humour.
Yeah, he's good.
But I was giving him a run through. I was giving him an example of, we'll just do it like this. He goes, I'll just copy that. I said, no, you won't, you little prick. He's really a good kid. He's really intelligent. And, he's blessed that he hasn't done himself permanent damage. Yeah. Because, those seizures knocked you about badly.
Yeah, he was really bad. And the thing, he did it in front of his friends, and he didn't even pull him up. Just said, he's had another seizure, whereas, as a parent, you're beside yourself waiting for that next one to actually finish him, and he was warned that could happen. But he's got his smile back. He's pumping iron now. He's actually playing footy again next week. Yeah, he's put on about...
He's putting on some weight. Good.
Yeah, he's put on about 15 kilos since in the last 40-odd days. But he was... I think he was 43, 45 kilos, so it didn't have to take much. He just had to eat a little bit. But, he's...
when he told me he was 45 kilos, I had a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah, he looked like a jangy.
He's that heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's knocked himself about.
Yeah. Well, he's got a story, and I think it'll come to the stage where he wants to talk about it to help others. He's just getting himself, through. Like, he's very proud of himself, which he should be, to get this far, because he's dropped off a lot of friends that he knows aren't good for him. But then he's trying to help a few of those ones that he's closer to.
I think, as I've said to him, mate, you can help him, but you can't let him, a drowning person will pull you down.
Yeah.
I always say, mate, you swim out in the surfboard and say, grab hold of the board and hang on. Don't let him grab hold of you because I'll pull you under.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got you.
Yeah,
I said to him, because when they're drowning, mate, they'll pull you down.
Yeah.
No. So how's it been for you, mate, the last 42 days?
Oh, it's peaceful. It's good to be able to go to bed not worrying about the phone ringing at all hours of the night, whether it be police, ambulance, or Jack. And the last one I picked him up, he was in a paranoia, and that was shocking. Like, I think that really tipped him over the edge to, not want to live like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really good. It's been just having him back in our lives and smiling, and like he's kicking the footy, like he's going to the footy, he's doing stuff he hasn't done for nearly 4 years. So that's great. But just going to bed at night, Ronnie, and being able to put your head on the pillow and think he's home safe. We know we're not going to get any calls. It's so much better.
Yeah. The whole family, because this disease attacks the whole family.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody gets affected by it.
Mm. Yeah, and I did. And yeah, the kids don't talk much. He's got a little brother. I think he's closer to him now than he ever has been. Which he's rapt about. He's finally got a connection with his 12-year-old brother, and even says, "I'm going to be watching him not to do what I did." And so the family's rapt that he's back. So, yeah, as you said, just for today.
Just for the day, mate. Everything's just for the day, mate. Even for us, everything's just for the day. Fucking meteorite might come and get us all tomorrow. Who cares?
Yeah.
Today's the only thing we've got control over. Like the whole human race. I believe. If they live by these principles, of just taking care of today and not living so much in the past. Because I find if I live in the past, I get full of anger and resentment.
Yeah.
Of what I didn't do. And if I live in the future, I get full of anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
They're the negative things of both of those things. But if I live in today, I'm okay. Just right now, just for this moment, I'm in a nice warm house. I'm got clothes, I've got food. I'm okay.
Yeah.
If I got out of today and started worrying about, my daughter's getting married next year and blah, 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 my granddaughter's moving up to Whit Sundays and I hope she's going to be all right. That's all negative crap that's going to kill my today.
Yeah.
I love my life too much to let the past be part of it. The past just, I believe, is lessons.
Yeah.
And the future is just a vivid imagination.
Yeah.
You haven't got a clue what's going to happen tomorrow.
Nah, I don't know what's going to happen this
afternoon. I haven't got a clue what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that, I've had an opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that the world gets to know what's going on from the other side.
Yeah.
The people think, a kid's a drug addict. Oh, his parents mustn't love him. Or his parents must be, on drugs.
Yeah.
His parents are on the dole down the road, Their parents have never achieved anything in their life, which is all bullshit.
Absolutely.
Bob Hawke's daughter was a heroin addict.
Yeah. Neville Rand's.
Neville Rand's daughter was, involved with the ice.
Yeah.
And this disease doesn't discriminate who it takes.
Yeah, especially once they get on the ice. It's a putrid drug, as you say, and it just changes them completely.
Yeah, I think it's the worst drug I've seen in my... I'm only a young fellow. I'm only 67 years old. I've only been around it since 1971, so, I'm pretty new to this. That's the worst drug I've seen. I remember in the States, they had a drug called angel dust and a drug called PCP. I don't know what they were, but guys were running at the coppers and the coppers were shooting them 9 times and I was still running at them.
Yeah,
and that's what this ice is doing to people.
Yeah.
The schizophrenia and the psychosis that this ice is causing, it's unbelievable,
Yeah.
Mate, I'm an old heroin addict, I would never put my kid in a microwave.
Yeah.
These guys on ice are putting their kids in microwaves to shut them up.
Yeah.
It's a terrible drug. No drug's a good drug.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is they should legalise all drugs.
Yeah.
The government should be in control of selling them, and I think you'd find out half the people would stop using them.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, I do agree. I've coached footy clubs where they've been using it. I used to say, once they start selling it at Woolworths, I'll get on it. So until they sell a lot of coals, it's no good.
Yeah. You got to get the crime. You got to get the criminals and the crime and the corruption out of it. And the only way you can do that is by legalising it.
Mm.
And I honestly believe I started using drugs as a rebel.
Yep.
If it became legal, I wouldn't want to do it. I was only doing it because it was illegal at the start of it. It was naughty, And I think a lot of people get on it because it's naughty and it's a way of rebelling. And most addicts that I've ever spoke to always had some sort of trauma or some sort of belief system that they weren't enough.
Yeah.
That they didn't fit in. You ask every single addict, I never felt like I fitted in.
Yeah. And I think Jack was...
I used to say I felt like I was on the wrong planet.
Yeah.
Sorry, brother?
I think Jack was that one too. Just felt like he didn't fit in, and he just didn't know where he was in life, where he fit in life. I think that's why he was sort of, going the way he went.
Yeah, we spoke about it where he's told me, I didn't feel like I felt like I was adopted.
Yeah,
because he looks different. That's Jack looks different to the rest of the boys.
Yeah, he does.
It's like me. I actually felt. I don't know what I felt. I just didn't. But I had a lot of trauma. See, mine's a little bit different. I had a lot of trauma and a lot of violence and a lot of stuff in my life.
Yeah.
So I understand the way I felt, but I still believe I still felt that way even if I hadn't had the trauma.
Yeah.
I believe I was born an addict.
Yeah.
Because the way I was obsessive with training, the way I was compulsive with what I did, I was obsessive and compulsive at everything I did.
Yeah.
I'd run to the gym and then train.
Yep.
And then I'm going to say, "Do you want to lift home?" And say, "No, I'll run home."
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to be the best. I had this thing and I always thought that my outsides would justify if I could make myself good enough on the outside, everyone would think that I had it together.
Yeah.
So I was trying to fix my insides from my outsides.
Yeah.
And I learnt that social acceptability doesn't equal recovery. That the work I have to do is on the inside of me, not the outside of me.
Yeah.
And that's why, I say it's an inside job. People laugh when I say that because, I spent a lot of years in prison and I say it's an inside job. I've got a mate of mine coming on the podcast next week who I've been mates with for 40-something years. And he did a big term. He only ever went to jail once. He only ever had one conviction for 12 bank robberies. You know what I mean? And the cops got hold of him and tricked him and were giving him heroin to say that he did more than what he actually did.
Yeah.
So, and he even says to me, like back in those days, I was always good-hearted to him, like even when I was a junkie, don't get me wrong, I was horrible, but I still cared about people. I actually still cared about good people.
Yeah.
Even though I did some horrible things in my days, but the good people in my life I always cared about. I knew right from wrong. Even when I was sitting in the police station being questioned, I was saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." In my heart of hearts, I knew that I knew I was wrong.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show, I wasn't born horrible and I wasn't born evil, and it took years of practice to do all that shit.
Yeah.
And it's taken years of practice to get better.
Yeah.
So, with Jack, I know for a fact that if he keeps doing what he's been doing the last 42 days, he's going to be fine. But I just think that he's so blessed to have a family that's supported him.
Yeah.
And he looks up to you incredibly so, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And I think he's teaching the whole family something.
Yeah,
I really do. I believe it's a family disease. I believe it's a family recovery, Mick.
Yeah, I 100% agree, mate, because, the family and his two little siblings, Izzy and Coop, they've seen a hell of a lot for, a 9 and 12-year-old. They've seen some pretty ordinary things they shouldn't have had to see with Jack, but hopefully they've learned from that. But the good thing is Jack keeps going, which I'm hope and pray that he does. They've got him to guide him a bit too. So, the family are very supportive. They're all happy. And he's spending so much time with his brothers, which is, it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, mate, he always all he does is to me talks about you, talks about he went and played with his little brother this morning or yesterday morning. Went and played some game. He hadn't played with him for years, and he's kicking the football with his other brothers the other weekend. Stuff like that's gold for me. That's the reward.
Yeah, and he's actually enjoying it. He's enjoying being around them, and whereas he used to do it previously because he thought, I've got to do it. It's a family thing. I've got to do it. He didn't want to do it, but he'd come to things, but he was always, you could tell he didn't want to be there because he felt like he didn't belong, or because he was using drugs and he thought everyone was judging him, looking down on him, which isn't the case. And look, as I said, we just never gave up. If you don't give up, something will change.
Yeah, well, mate, quitters don't win and winners don't quit.
Exactly. Yeah, but he's
we
great.
We know that in everything in life.
Yeah, I think, Ronnie, you've got a massive amount to do with it.
Yeah, I can only tell you where to dig, mate. He's got to dig it.
Yeah, no, but
that's the reality.
He takes a lot on board. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Mick, mate, look, I really, really am so happy to have you come on the podcast and share your experience, strength and hope. I hope that some other parents sitting back and goes like, wow, okay, this guy's got through it, so I can get through it too, because that's what this is all about. This is about carrying the message to people that are still suffering and letting them know that there is hope and that, never give up. Never give up on your child, And just because they're an addict doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It means that they've got an issue, that we can address that issue one day at a time,
Exactly. And
so Mick, I'm going to...
Yeah,
brother?
He sees that. He sees that we're sticking by him, and he knows he's got the right support now, not just from his family and you. I think even out in the community, he knows people there to help him. And one of the old mates from school, he's caught up with him a bit at, watching his brothers play footy, and now he's talking about playing footy next year, which is good, which he would never have said. So, yeah, he's turned the corner slowly, but as you say, just for the day.
Just for the day, brother. All right, Mick, thank you very much for your time, mate. Much love. Really appreciate you coming on, mate. I really do.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you, brother.
You've saved his life, mate.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.